The High Priestess Aisha is supposed to be like this beautiful, like ethereal thing, but she literally looks a hot mess throughout the majority of the film. Like, bitch, run a comb through your hair. Hi Ari Avengers, welcome back. As you can tell by the title of the video, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and since, you know, Avengers and the MCU is kind of baked into my personality at this point, there's no way I can't review it. We're gonna skip all the other bullshit that came out in Phase 4 that I could really give less than 2 shits about. Like 1 minus 1 is 0. That's how many shits I give. It's a little bit different with Guardians of the Galaxy because we've been on this journey with them since Phase 2 of the MCU. That doesn't mean we're gonna watch Ant-Man and like the Quantumania thing. Like, I love Paul Rudd, but I'm good off that. But yeah, so I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and this isn't an overview of the movie or response or review or anything like that. Well, I mean, I guess it is kind of a review, but I'm not gonna go through piece by piece of every part of the film. This isn't an actual reaction or anything. It's just my critiques, my likes, my dislikes, and so forth. So if that sounds like something interesting to you guys, continue to watch this video. Maybe like, subscribe, possibly. I mean, we're on our way to 2K. I don't know if we'll get there anytime soon, but I'm still excited and I'm just here for the ride, y'all. It's fun. It's fun. I'm having a good time. Thank you everybody who's been watching my videos. Star Wars Episode 1? Phantom Menace. I just threw that one out a few days ago, like about 2 weeks ago. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen that, go on and watch that. I have a whole playlist of that. And let's just get into it, y'all, because I got some things to say. First off, so first critique, I felt like it was all over the place. There were a few too many storylines going on for my taste. There is a part towards the end of the movie where it cuts to Drax and Mantis, and they're just chilling in like this neighborhood, and Drax like knocks this guy over, gets on a bike, and ends up going to go meet Peter and Groot and Nebula at like this spaceship thing where the bad guy's at, right? When it cut to that, I was just like, get back to Groot and Peter on the ship. Like, that's the shit I'm trying to see, dog. Like, I don't really care right now about Mantis and Drax. Like, it just wasn't that interesting to me. I noticed that when I felt like that, I was just like, okay, I feel like there might be a little too many storylines crammed in here. The flashbacks, I know they were necessary to the foundation of the story. It's important to know these flashbacks in regards to Rocket and like what he's going through. At times they would cut away to the flashbacks and I'm just like, okay, do we need all this? Like, I get it. They're friends. They love each other. It's beautiful. Through their tragedy of being tortured and put together as these things, they found each other. I get it. But like, let's get back to the action. Second one that I have is Adam Warlock was underused. At the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with Aisha the High Priestess, when she's like, I've given birth to this creation, he's so beautiful, Adam. That shit made me think that Adam was about to be out here fucking bitches up. I mean, don't get me wrong, yeah, he fucked Rocket up, but he didn't even kill him. Spoiler. Yeah, Rocket doesn't die. Yeah, he didn't even kill him. He didn't do anything, dog. Like, literally, he was just there for like comedic relief and everything. Aisha the High Priestess was too. It just felt like, this is the sovereign. This is your queen. Just something about it. Just, Adam Warlock was definitely not what I thought he was going to be, especially in comparison to the comics. I felt like they had written themselves into a corner with that cutscene at the end of the Volume 2. So they were like, well, we can't just leave this undone. We gotta use Adam Warlock for something. And I get that he's essential for starting the whole story. He's the one that attacks Rocket and puts him in that like critical condition. However, I feel like you could have just had the High Evolutionary send literally any of his goons to go get Rocket, and you don't even need the Sovereign. You don't need Adam Warlock or Aisha the High Priestess in this movie at all. I also do think the High Evolutionary felt like a very generic villain. And honestly, there's certain aspects of it that didn't even make sense to me with him at all. Like, it just had me wondering more stuff. Why are you sending Adam Warlock to go get Rocket Raccoon now? How long has it been since Rocket escaped? I would think you would have sent him fairly quickly after he escaped, unless I guess he thought he could create the perfect species in the perfect world without Rocket, and it wasn't until he realized he needed him still that he decided to send Adam to go retrieve him. However, it still doesn't really make sense to me. He felt generically evil, and it was kind of giving Thanos, but then, I don't know, just something about him, it felt kind of meh, very flaccid penis, you know, just a waste of time. Another thing that I didn't like when I walked out of the movie theater, I felt like the magic was gone. Like, you know, when you've been dating somebody for like years and everything was so great and you really loved all the things they did in the beginning, but now it's been a few years and those things that they do are just kind of like, you know, like, okay. That's kind of how I felt with Volume 3. One of the biggest things that drew me to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, hands down, was the music. And when I heard Awesome Mix Volume 1, it was awesome. Like, literally, it lived up to the name. It is what it is, you guys. It's a bop. By the time Volume 3 came around, when they were doing the music, I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. It feels more gimmicky than it does original anymore. To add insult to injury, the humor didn't really do it for me either. Honestly, I feel like between Groot, Gamora, Peter Quill, and Rocket Raccoon, they were one of my favorite ensembles within the MCU. For as much as everyone's, oh my god, I forgot Drax. Okay, Gamora, Drax, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and Peter Quill. As much as I loved them as an ensemble cast, by the time we got around to Volume 3, you know, with the addition of Nebula and Mantis and this new Gamora, while it felt refreshing to see how well everyone knew each other, it just was lacking something for me. That initial like twinkle of something new that I got from Volume 1, it just wasn't there anymore. On to my compliments. We gotta layer this, so oh damn, if I was gonna do a shit sandwich, I should have done my compliments first. It's fine. It's fine. The biggest thing that I do feel like the character development in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is absolutely fucking phenomenal. And I do feel like keeping James Gunn to do all 3 volumes really aided this. There's arguments that are being had between the characters that feel like a natural progression of how they would talk to each other given how much time they've spent together. There's an argument between Mantis, Drax, and Nebula when they're on the spaceship towards the end of the film. It feels so natural. Like, it feels like an argument that they would get into. The way Peter talked to Gamora, he's learned to love through her. He's grown to be a lot more in touch with his emotions through the love he had for her. You can see that in the way he's interacting with this new Gamora. Just the natural progression of each individual character. Mantis realizing she doesn't want to be seen as just a ditz, and the same thing with Drax. Nebula taking a step back to realize that Mantis and Drax are actually helpful and provide assistance and qualities that she doesn't have, or other qualities that are also valuable. Stuff like that was just really great to see. Peter had tremendous character growth when he finally decided to stop running away from his home life and return to Earth to meet his grandfather for the first time in decades. Rocket Raccoon. Rocket's fucking growth. This was his movie. He said, I'm the main character, bitch. And my god, the growth that he had. You know, Rocket was always kind of like a secondary character. Even within the confines of the Guardians of the Galaxy, he was still never really the primary. The amount of attention that they gave him, you really understand why Homeboy moves the way he does. Seeing him experimented on and seeing how the High Evolutionary talked down to him, I thought back to Volume 1.
I didn't ask to get made! I didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together over and over and turned into some little monster.
Rocket, no one's calling you a monster.
He called me vermin. She called me rodent.
And you think about that and it's so painful because you understand so much more of his upbringing now. You know that it really does dig deep with him. And you can hear when he says it in Volume 1 that he's borderline tears from the insults that they throw at him. And now we understand what was feeding all that pain and all that hurt. And it just makes it like, oh, Chef's kiss. Even Groot, bro, seeing Groot, like he literally developed as a character. He's damn near at the same place he was at the start of volume 1, and it's just beautiful to see. Another thing I can say that was a lot better in Guardians of the Galaxy as opposed to other Marvel products that have been released in the past few months, the visual effects team, they did their shit. I wouldn't say it's as clean or as polished as volume 1 or even volume 2, but compare it to something like the Multiverse of Madness that is honestly just fucking criminal. It looks phenomenal, and kudos, snaps for the girls at the visual effects. Give them their flowers because they earned that shit. Gamora was so fucking awesome. Even though she's the same person, technically it was great to see her as like almost an anti-hero. Not to mention Zoe Saldana fucking killed that shit. Like, you know, this bitch was having a blast playing like this conniving bad girl that's like kind of good. Yo, she literally went in that bitch guns blazing. She was just so badass, and in a different way that we're not used to seeing Gamora. Obviously we haven't experienced her like this. Is a completely different character in a sense. She just brought so much life and energy. That was some of the best acting from Zoe Saldana that I think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen her really play the bad guy. She absolutely killed that shit. And side note, Zoe Saldana in real life is actually a trained ballerina. Did you guys know? Because I fucking knew. And also, I actually loved the ending scene because throughout the beginning, when Gamora is introduced into the story, we see Peter trying to sway her back to joining the Guardians of the Galaxy because she's actually a part of the Ravagers, which, if you don't remember, the Ravagers is the group of people that abducted Peter at the beginning of Volume 1, and they're the people he grew up with. So now this new Gamora is actually part of the Ravagers with them. Partially through the story, I'm hoping that Peter can convince her to go back and to join the Guardians, but I think what sold me was the very ending scene for her. She joins the Ravagers at the end of the film, and Stallone comes out and he tells her welcome home, and everybody like hugs her and cheers her on, and she looks so happy, you guys. Like, they are her family and they absolutely love her, and you can tell she loves them too. It's kind of like heartwarming and heartbreaking all at the same time. Up until that point, she's still the same as our Gamora. She still experienced that genocide of her people, on top of having this psychopath or sociopath for a father in Thanos. Now she is still wanting a real family, and instead of her finding it with the Guardians like our Gamora did, she found her family with the Ravagers. It is sweet because it's like, you know, she finally has a home and people that really care about her. It's just sad because that's when it clicked for me that she is not joining the Guardians anymore. This is not our Gamora. Our Gamora has passed away. Another thing that made it interesting about Gamora being with the Ravagers is that now it's like her dynamic with Nebula has completely switched. Now Nebula is the one with the Guardians, and Gamora is the more bad person, like the more thievery individual. I don't know, is thievery even a fucking word? Whatever. She's the more, you know, just bad person out of the two of them, whereas for volumes 1 and 2, it was primarily Nebula that was the bad guy, or like the anti-hero. Chris Pratt also gave a really good performance. I feel like he just went back to being, actually not even back to being, I would say he gave us a more sweet and lovable portrayal of Peter Quill this time around. In volumes 1 and 2, he's more so like the jokester, like funny guy, flirty guy. I guess you could say in volume 2, he also had more emotional weight and stuff like that when Ego told him that, you know, he's the one that killed his mom and all that stuff. You do see some of that pain there too, but it's just a little bit different with this because we see a Peter Quill that's actually grieving. He already lost his mom, and then he meets his dad, thinks he's going to reconnect with him, loses his dad, finds out this huge betrayal from his dad, and then he ends up losing Gamora, which was potentially the love of his life. Seeing him going through that grieving process and knowing that like the Guardians are kind of having to take up for him because he's still in mourning over that, it's really painful and like sad to see. It's even more like heart-wrenching when we see the new Gamora show up and Peter is just so on her nuts. He just wants her to be his Gamora so bad. And there's a scene that if you've seen it, you'll know when Gamora 2.0 literally loses her shit and spazzes on him, and she's like, I'm not your fucking Gamora and you need to fucking lay off me. It's just so sad because Peter loves her and he knows that she has the potential to turn into the woman that he was in love with, but that most likely it's it's not gonna happen, that he just needs to be able to let go and accept the fact that his version of Gamora is lost. And I do feel like Chris Pratt did a great job of getting that across on all scales. Bradley Cooper gave the fucking performance of a lifetime as Rocket. And of course he was gonna have to put in more effort and more work because this is Rocket's backstory. And man, he blows it out the fucking park. There was so much emotional weight behind damn near every line. To be able to convey that much feeling and emotion through voice acting, he did a really good job. And hands down, I think it's the best vocal performance we've seen from him as Rocket Raccoon thus far. The scene where they jumped out of the ship in their spacesuits. I liked it. It looked like Among Us. Nathan Fillion. That's all. It's just Nathan Fillion. Like, Nathan Fillion in a spaceship is never wrong. It's always right. So yeah, Nathan Fillion. Animals as people. I like it. Star-Lord saying,
Open the door.
first F-bomb in the MCU, and y'all know how much I love to fucking curse. I was here for every fucking bit of that. Gamora shooting that girl in the leg and not even thinking twice about it. Yeah, it's Ravage. Not Savage, Ravage. The anti-gravity escape, all back to Volume 1. I don't know if anybody peeped that. Volume 1 of Guardians of the Galaxy, they escape the prison with Rocket doing an anti-gravity thing on everyone else in the prison except for them. When they're trying to escape Orgocorps, Peter ends up doing the exact same thing, and it's fucking awesome. I caught it as soon as I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's an excellent callback. Peter reuniting with his grandpa. It was beautiful. It was touching. Pull on my heartstrings. We love to see it. Peter trying to win Gamora back. Pretty funny throughout the whole film. I will have to say that was one of the better running jokes throughout the movie. Mantis kicking ass in Orgocorps. Mwah, beautiful. One of the biggest complaints I heard about her character was how they had dumbed her down and made her almost infantile compared to her character in the comics. And I feel like that fight scene did a great job redeeming her abilities and her skills to the team. When Gamora 2.0 is finally able to understand Groot, I need a minute. Okay, I'm good. The fight scene, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. Rocket absolutely foobarring the high evolutionary space. That was so satisfying. Groot saying, I love you guys. I need another minute. Okay, I'm back. The High Priestess Aisha is supposed to be like this beautiful, like ethereal fucking thing. But she literally looks a hot mess throughout the majority of the film. Like, bitch, run a comb through your hair. Get a flat iron. They're not that expensive. Rocket's kill switch never being mentioned is kind of an issue for me. You're telling me throughout all these adventures, throughout all these things, Rocket never got injured to the point where y'all motherfuckers knew he had a kill switch? Seems kind of weird. Seems like something's off. Seems like this is plot convenience. Just saying. The High Evolutionary killing Lila, followed by Teefs and Floor dying. I need another minute! The fact that the whole premise of the story is that the High Evolutionary created Rocket and then got jealous when Rocket ended up being more like intellectually superior than him. Wow. Jealousy is such an ugly girl. And finally, the last random thing that I did not enjoy from Guardians of the Galaxy is having to say bye to the original Guardians. Because I'm a level with you guys. That whole little setup for Rocket as the captain, and then Kurt from Gilmore Girls, and the little Asian girl that looks like one of the kids from Village of the Damned, and Adam Warlock, and his little pet thing. I'm not picking up that vibe. No, it's not for me. Not for me. Mm-mm. But anyways, you guys, that wraps up my critiques, my compliments, the random things I enjoyed, and the random things that I did not enjoy of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Overall, if I had to say how I feel about the movie just in general, I would say that for Phase 4, it's quite good. However, that's literally saying that out of shite, it's the best piece of shite in the bunch. If I had to compare or place Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in ranking to any of the films in Phases 1 through 3, honestly, I would put it on par with Well, I'm not gonna say Thor: The Dark World. That's an insult. I would probably put it on par with like Black Panther. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it's just not the best I've ever seen from MCU. On its own, it stands up really great. Like honestly, this film doesn't even need to be part of the MCU to be considered a good film. I just feel like for the way everyone talked about it and the reviews and the audience scores and the critic scores, and even the way some of my friends talked about it on Facebook, because some of them wanted to fucking talk about it, even though I made a Facebook post saying, don't talk to me about it or else I'm gonna block you and I'm gonna unfriend you. But some people wanted to be dickheads and do it anyways and try and fuck with me. Even the way they were talking about it, I just didn't think it really lived up to at least my expectations. But who knows? After Infinity War and Endgame, my expectations might just be a little too high with what the MCU is capable of doing these days. However, it is the MCU. I'm always gonna love it. It always has a place in my heart. I am the Ari Avenger, and I'm branded for life. But anyways, if you guys like this video, please be sure to like this video. And if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, comment down below. What did you like? What didn't you like? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? I'm all ears. I'm ready to have a conversation. Let's discourse. If you haven't seen my episode 1 review or reaction to The Phantom Menace, go and watch that now. I have a whole playlist. If you're new to the channel, you can go check that out. That's all I have for this video. Ari Avengers, disassemble. Mwah.